Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another video on the channel where today we're going to be reviewing another formation. We're going to be looking at the 4-3-1-2, which I think this is the first time we've looked at this formation, the whole of FIFA. So it's been recommended a couple of times in the comment section, as I say to you guys all the time. If you do have any other formations that you do want me to check out, whether we've done them or whether you just want us to re-review them because obviously of the new patch, put them in the comment section and we'll get around to reviewing all your guys' formations in the future. But starting off with this 4-3-1-2, it is a pretty good formation this year in FIFA, and obviously it's not a formation that we have reviewed. It's a formation that I've been using a few times in draft, especially recently. It's a formation that has been given to me as a choice, and I've taken it and I've had some experience with it in draft. And to be honest, those experiences have been mixed. Sometimes it's been a really top formation, and sometimes it's just been okay. So I thought I'd try it in Rivals today against some top level opposition and battle hard and test this formation. Now, obviously, with this formation, we don't have any width in this team, and if you've watched any of our formation videos in the past, obviously you know that I always preach that width is very important this year in FIFA, which I still stand by that wholeheartedly. I still think you need some sort of width in your team. Not necessarily because it makes it easier to score goals, but sometimes just being able to defend, funnily enough, because it gives you an option out. Sometimes when with these narrow formations, it can be a little bit predictable to defend because you know that the opponent has to pass through the middle of the pitch all the time because that's where their players are. But you also have to play to the strengths of your team, and with this team, it's obviously all the strengths in the middle of the pitch. You can see we've obviously got a flat midfield. Now you know that we'll drop Alan between the defenders. We'll get into the instructions in a minute, but flat midfield, two strikers, Cam and a back four, so it's pretty simple to use. I think this would be a really good formation to use if you're someone that is maybe a lower tier division player. You know, you may be a Division 6, Division 7 player. I think this would be a really easy formation to use because obviously everybody's very close together. Passing's very easy. You know, it's not too difficult to make those passes. Lots of easy connections to make to your players as well between your cam, your strikers, your midfield, all links up really well with your back four as well. So it's a pretty simple and easy formation to use. Now going on into those instructions now. First and foremost, with the fullbacks, I decided to have the fullbacks on balance in the end. Initially, I had them set on to stay back while attacking because I thought, whilst we don't have any width in this team, I also wanted to have a solid back four, and I didn't want to get caught out on the counter because normally I will have my fullbacks on stay back while attacking because I have some width further up the field. So in this formation, initially I went on to stay back while attacking because I thought that by having them back, I was not going to get exposed. As I said, when I normally use wide midfielders or wingers, I always have a player, if my fullback goes forwards, I have a player to cover. So I thought this time I don't have that player to cover if they get out of position. The problem was, especially playing in Division 1, now given the fact that I was playing in Division 1, in Division Rivals, obviously against some very good players, they were able to exploit that gap. But in the end, I decided to settle on to balance because I thought that attacking wise, it was very predictable. As I stated before, when attacking, it was very easy for people to read me when I was attacking, when I had them on stay back while attacking, because everything had to funnel through the middle of the pitch, and that's why I say width is important in FIFA. Even if it's just an out ball, just to give you a different, you know, if nothing else, it gives you two passes. You can either pass inside to the middle or outside to the width, and the fact that we didn't have any width meant that everything had to go through the middle, so eventually it became pretty easy to read what I was going to do because that was the only pass I had on. So eventually I moved them on to balanced attack, and I found a lot more success going forwards in attacks. Obviously it now meant that we were open to the counter, and obviously playing against some quality opposition in Division 1, they're going to exploit that. But given the fact that, as I said before, this is a great formation if you're someone who is maybe a lower tier division player, maybe playing Division 6, Division 7 or anything below that. And also, even if you are a higher division player, if you play in champs, you're not going to come across Division 1 players every game. That's what I tried to think about when I was playing in divisions, that not everyone is going to play Division 1 caliber opponents all the time, so people maybe are going to play a bit lower tier opponents, and in the end, playing on balance, I really found my stride with that. Now moving into the central midfielder, as I said, the fact that we've got Alan, I like to drop between defenders. For me, if I'm playing a flat midfield with three midfielders, I always want the most central midfielder to drop between defenders. Because I just think it just makes you more solid in defence. It always means that you're going to have a midfielder to control on counter attacks rather than controlling your back four. And as I said to you before, if you watch my defending tutorial, you don't really want to control your back four. So the reason why I use drop between defenders on Alan is because then I've always got a midfielder that I can control before I control my centre back. So then if I'm controlling Alan, trying to wait for my midfielders to get back in position so I have a more solid team shape. So drop between defenders is always the instruction we use there. Obviously covering the centre of the pitch is most important, and then staying on the edge of the box because it prevents the counter-attacks in the first place. 2 outside midfielders. I had them cover centre. Some people maybe would use cover wing. For me, I do not like using cover wing. That could get around if you wanted to have your fullbacks on balanced as we did. People would maybe suggest using cover wing for the wide midfielders, and that would cover the width out wide. And that's true, it absolutely would, but the problem is it then leaves you exposed in the middle of the pitch. It means that you're only going to have Alan in the middle of the pitch to cover the whole of the middle of the pitch. So you're going to have to give up something somewhere. So I would rather have a more solid middle of the pitch and give up a little bit of width on the outside, because at the end of the day, they can't score out on the wing. Whilst obviously you can create a lot of good attacks out on the wing, you can't score out on the wing. You can score from the middle of the pitch. I'd rather protect the middle of the pitch. I decided to have Firmino on get into the box. This is simply a personnel choice, obviously, because it's Firmino and he's a more attacking midfielder. I want him getting into the box. And I had Nainggolan on stay on edge of the box, obviously because he's got some better defensive qualities than Firmino. I decided to have him on stay on edge of the box, and he's going to be there with Alan to prevent the counter-attacks. Obviously, he's got a bit more defensive nous about him, so it makes sense to have him on stay on edge of the box. If you don't have these 2 midfielders, it then depends on your personnel. You have to look at your type of midfielders and who you have in your team, and that will kind of dictate. If your midfielder is more of an attacking midfielder, use him on get into the box. If he's like a box-to-box midfielder, have him on stay on edge of the box. If he's like a defensive type midfielder, then again have him on stay on edge of the box, because then you're playing to the strengths of your personnel. Neymar, I pretty much decided to have this cam. I pretty much decided to have pretty much on basic. The only thing was get into the box. Again, I want those players getting into the box. And Neymar for me was incredible. Like, you'll see so many clips of him. He played so well in this position. It actually, funnily enough, I actually think this position suits him better than playing as a winger or a striker. I think actually Neymar playing as a cam is probably his best position. But that's going off on a tangent. But yeah, this cam position was good. Get into the box is definitely the right instruction for him. In terms of defensive support, always on basic. We don't want to come back on defense because that makes us too defensive. And I don't want them on stay forward because I want them to always keep like a gap between them. If you have everybody on basic, they're all just going to maintain the same sort of spacing between each other. So if you adjust one of those, you have to adjust all of them. So I left it on basic. I think that was best. And then up front, I had my 2 strikers, obviously Garrincha and Mbappe. I had them on getting behind, but I actually left the support runs on balanced width. Now normally I want to go on stay central. Now that is a possibility, as I've said before. Play to the strengths of the team, and the strength of the team obviously is in that spine. Obviously there's all our team is pretty much really narrow, so playing to the strength of the team would be using them on stay central. But I think given the fact that I wanted to have a little bit of width, I think it's more important at the top end of the pitch to have a little bit of width in your team. So I decided to have the 2 strikers on balanced width, because then at least they're going to make a few runs out wide. It's just going to give the opponent something else to think about. As I said, having a little bit of width at the top end of the pitch is super important. So having a little bit of balanced width, I found to be the best way to play. But you could definitely play on stay central. That would be a very good way to play. That's playing to the strength of the team even more. But for me, I found that having them on balanced width was just a little bit more effective, because it gave me a little bit of difference and variation when I was attacking, because I just felt that, especially coming up against the quality of opposition, I needed something a little bit different to get me some results, and I found that this was the most effective. Now tactic wise, these were the tactics that I did use. Pretty much the same as I said to you guys in previous videos before. I pretty much use the same tactics for pretty much every formation, because the thing is with tactics, as I said, you want to get used to, you want to get the feeling of the tactics. You don't want to change your tactics around too much from formation to formation, because then your play style is the same. These sorts of tactics suit my play style really well. So it just works well for me. I don't take free kicks, so I always go short with free kicks, so there's no point having players in the box. Corners the same. Sometimes I cross, sometimes I go short. Players in the box, we've already got the instructions set, so obviously we don't want to mess the instructions up. Width offensively, as I said, I want to be a little bit wider in the offense, so I obviously go for a little bit wider in the offense. Offensive style with long ball, of course, because it suits our strikers that we've got, so they're always going to be making those runs in behind. And then defense on 6 as well, and the width defensively on 5. And then obviously defensive style, for me, I always want to play on balance. I've seen a lot of people recently playing on a press. Feels like a lot of people playing on press on possession loss recently. It is a frustrating tactic to play against, but it obviously has its errors when defending, because it means that your opponents are going to be open for attack. Now, some people ask as well for the defensive style, so if you want to play this formation, like if you're leading a game and you want to play a little bit more defensive, these are the tactics I suggest. So obviously the fullbacks want to be on stay back while attacking. I land in midfield, drop between defenders and stay on edge of the box. Then the only difference is the 2 outside midfielders want to be on stay on edge of the box. Neymar wants to come back on defense, because again, if you want to use this formation and you're defending a lead, obviously you want more players back, you want more numbers back defending the box. And then the 2 strikers getting behind, come back on defense, of course, because I said you want to add to the numbers in defense. Getting behind, because we still want them to get in behind on counter attacks. And drift wide, because I want them to drift wider of the pitch and sort of take the ball towards the corners and just out in areas where it's going to be a little bit easier to hold possession of the ball, because there's not going to be many players out wide as opposed to in the middle of the pitch. There's obviously going to be more players, so more likely you're going to turn the ball over. But overall with this formation, I thought it was a good formation. It wasn't an incredible formation in my opinion. It wouldn't be a formation that I would say is one of the best in the game for sure. I've obviously, for me, reviewed a lot of formations, and this one is a good one. It's certainly not, it wouldn't fall in the category of bad, but it certainly wouldn't fall in the category of meta. What I found with this formation, I took it into a few friendly games to try and play against some kind of lesser competition. Obviously playing in Division 1, sometimes that can blur the lines and whether a formation is good or not because of the caliber opponent you're playing against. So I tried playing against some lesser caliber of opponent like you would in FUT Champs. Sometimes you're going to play some good players, sometimes not. And what I found was against lesser opposition, it was very, very effective. So if you're someone that's playing in a lower division, maybe Division 6, Division 7, Division 8, I think this would be a top formation to use. And it's also a very good formation when the game opens up, even against quality opposition. Once the game gets open and gets stretched, because obviously that means there's lots of gaps popping up all over the place because the game has become more stretched. So if the game becomes more stretched and kind of more of a counter-attacking game, where you attack, your opponent attacks, you attack, this formation will definitely come out on top, because obviously a lot of the gaps will appear in the midfield and your strength of your team is in the midfield. And I found that whether I was against someone good or someone bad, once the game got open and got stretched, I felt like this formation really, really took a lot of people to the cleaners, because obviously you've got so many players in the middle of the pitch, and then that's so many gaps appearing, and you were just able to pick apart, or when I was playing, I was able to just pick apart so many players, whether they were good or bad. So when the game opens up, this is a great formation, and I think it would be a very easy formation, and a formation I would recommend if you're a lesser player. Definitely a formation I would recommend you try and give it a go with these instructions. But that is it for the video, guys. So if you do want to recommend any other formations for us to review, do drop a like on the video. Make sure to subscribe as well if you're new to the channel and found the content useful. That's all for today, guys. Have an awesome day. I'm out.